Do they have us sitting in the dark?
Yeah.
I thought they would turn on lights to
Son
warm
of
up.
a gun, I thought it would be automatic.
Yeah, and I went there, and nothing happened.
And you, I can't recall where the lights are. My name is Jay Stankus, one of the members. I've got the flu, otherwise.
Oh.
Don't even breathe near us.
Have you had that yet?
No,
It's terrible.
I don't want it.
This is the 2 weeks.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah. You think you're over it, you know?
Yeah, I know, and then it comes back.
And, the next thing you know, it's back.
Yeah. You didn't get the flu shot?
I got the flu shot. I'm over 65, and I got the enhanced one, you know?
Yeah.
And also the pneumonia thing. Still,
Uh,
grandchildren,
yeah.
snivels.
Yep, that'll get you all the time.
You've been there and done that?
Yep, I definitely, those little kids, that's where you get them.
Yeah. Well, this should be kind of exciting today.
Why should it be exciting today?
By accident, they forgot to, the two clerks, think of coming to work once every 2 years. Your job, once every 2 years. You're supposed to be perfect. So two senior clerks on Saturday self-reported at about 11:30. No one's around. Can't reach anyone. Hey, we forgot to, Democrat, Republican, we forgot to initial. So depending upon what side of that political coin you're on, you can play games with it. You know. So I hope we can save it. Hi.
Hi.
We're early birds. Hello, David.
How are you?
Dave, I put by your place a resolution I drafted. Here is support I got emailed over to me from St. Joe.
That's a bad sign.
And
I
I
deal
don't
with
know
Joe.
them at all.
I deal with them a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't care, so, how are they on this?
Oh, they did freedom votes.
Looks like it, yeah.
I never heard of that.
And I also talked to the state board and asked for them to give me an idea of what their thoughts are. Dave's in the grapevine, what I'm getting, we should be prepared for 6 a.m. We should be prepared for places not opening. On time. Did you give them a count on how the Republican call did with the phone calls?
With the what?
Phone calls?
I don't know. I haven't got any status from anybody.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Hmm?
We can't do that. That's expressly against what the state said.
It's not in the code that way, you just don't have anything expressed expressed. The expression is provisional voting is there.
Because that's what, I mean, that's what that, both of those guys said, like Coach Barr and now this Dale person as well.
That's not what Kuchevar said. I talked to him this morning.
That that they're requiring those.
You do not let those votes go down the drain. Take the action. It's been done by St. Joe County. We've approved it.
Well, what about the problem of we put out a public notice that the votes are invalid because of the clerk error and the revote? First you say
meet your public notice.
you're saying
Why would
you're-
you support a public notice that's an error?
Well, I understand that, but once we took an action, and now we're trying to backpedal.
Well, Dave, you're disenfranchising a lot of friggin' voters, all due to non-training of two assholes.
And then if you don't do it, and then there is a challenge,
You deal with it.
then
You
I think,
deal with it.
then you're gonna lose them. You're gonna lose the same votes.
Yeah, but you're not gonna, you're, right now, you're creating a nightmare for all voters come on the 6th. You're indicating you're incompetent.
Oh,
Oh, come
there
on.
was a human error. My God, if there's a human among us that doesn't make a mistake, I'd like to
Dave,
know who that
there was
person
no one
is.
there to take a phone call. Come on.
Oh,
Do you know Sunday Kabaki refused to work with it? You know that people are calling, as I sat there that morning,
but they
you
talked
came
to
through
Kathy.
the door, that poor girl was talking every second.
yeah.
Was
Let's
the
not make
only
it-
employee at
Now,
9:30.
listen, let's make this clear as it was the day we started to discuss this. Let's not change this into some dramatic, oh, we didn't train, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. Because the training has been the same as it's been.
No,
You get
there's
one,
no
you get one, you
experience,
get-
number one,
Well, but you get one
and you
class,
can
get
only
the
do it
hardest
with
people.
lengthy training. And you've got a clerk who could give a shit who's running for office, and you know.
But the same poll workers got trained, they get one class.
They
and then
never
show up
trained
on the election
before.
day,
These are
and that's
two
that.
senior males.
So, I mean, I guess I don't buy it.
You're looking political as hell, kid.
You're making it political.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
trying to
we-
say voters, and you're gonna
I
create a
understand
nightmare.
that.
You're
But
gonna
I
create a
think
nightmare.
If the
Dave, you
liberal-
took an oath as an attorney. Follow the friggin' oath.
Now, don't bring up the attorney. If I had that lady, her Facebook post was just ridiculous. That was,
Facebook?
yeah.
Dave, don't
Tell
let
them
this
what
shit
their own
behind
word.
the scenes.
How are you?
How are you, Ken? What do you do?
How are you doing?
JJ, how are you?
Ethan, this is a resolution, Ken. This is a resolution I'm gonna make, and Ethan, here's the background to it, a little bit. And this was done in St. Joe County. No, it's the same format, and our attorney follows a format similar for resolutions, so it played in pretty good. At least it looks like we know what we're doing.
Perception's reality. That's what it looks like. That's where I fall down the track. I can't even pull that off.
I know.
Now, what that lady did by crowing about that on the frickin'
We got this yesterday. This was submitted via the county website, and it's from personnel and fire office, candidate stuff, mailboxes,
Yeah, I said, yeah.
and Scott told me to give
See
it
you
to
in
them.
3 days here. Yeah, I really did.
They're pulling them out, basically.
Hi.
So they weren't mailed, they were just shoved in the box, which you're not supposed to do.
No,
I
no.
think so.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
that one
This
that they
is a
mentioned,
motion
they said they
to
will keep the
save
stuff
votes.
till Thursday, and then they're gonna throw it out. So if that candidate wants the stuff, then he needs to go to the post office and pick it up, otherwise they're gonna toss it. So,
No, I think what that lady did was wrong. And it was insulting to any other attorney.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
it's one
sorry
thing.
that we've hit that stage.
I mean, it's one, if someone files a complaint, so be it, and we'll do it. But to me, as an attorney, I was offended by her post. to stand
Dave,
here
what
and crow about.
do you do in an email, having private conversations?
Correct, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it now, but I'll tell you what, I mean, that's insulting. And I don't know who that person is, but that's ridiculous.
Well, you know,
It is. That's the worst behavior. And the company attorney who's trained to hold their tongue and know how to act.
and what does that have to do with you as the president of a county election board? What does that have to do with you?
But it came through our formal complaint process.
No, it did not. It came
I
from the
know.
Karen Martin.
I know. I
Sending
said
to
if
you a
someone-
Facebook.
If someone filed a complaint, then we would deal with it.
Exactly.
But as a person, as a human, and as a professional, it was offensive. What she did was offensive. There's nothing me as a board member I can do at this second. But I think it was really wrong. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry you don't agree, but that's where my ethical requirement is different. We can change language. You should tell him to.
Who?
He's,
Tell who?
what you just told me on his initiative, that you talked to Coach. You should talk to him about that. Tell him.
I talked to him this morning.
No. Because that's what he, like you said, he was totally different opinion. Because there's an appellate case, those initials, if they're not present, they're strict. And after the election board did what we were trying to do, that's why I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm glad.
You know what I mean? Seriously.
There was a written memo of some kind by the Democratic attorney, Kochevar. I talked to him this morning, and I asked him what was his position on proceeding forward to waive the signatures. And he says, do it. In other words, he can't guarantee that it's all going to fly on a recount. But he says we'd be remiss if what we did was to zing people who couldn't make it back in.
And I would think that every effort should be made and is being made to have these people come back and re-vote. And in that situation, we'll do the ABS 5 and spoil their prior ballot. But I read the law as it does not have a signature, those ballots that the people that do not re-vote shall be rejected at the inspection. And there is a savings clause as it relates to absentee ballots, if there's a poll worker error, but it does not, unfortunately, it does not apply when there is an absence of something.
Okay, that's what I was worried about when you're saying. I'm with you. I'd like to save anything I could.
I don't believe you, Dave. I think right now, you know, why wouldn't you err on the side of saving the votes? Why wouldn't you do that?
But if the law doesn't say we can do that,
Oh, come on, Dave. That can all be cured in a courtroom, but for you to void the votes before they even get a chance to be counted.
all right, at 3 o'clock. All right, let's call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we get roll call?
JJ,
Present?
Dave,
Here.
Karen, here.
All right, we have our meeting scheduled today regarding an early voting issue that we had on Saturday morning, October 27th, for the ballots cast at the Portage Clerk's Office or County Complex between 8:30 and 11:30 in the morning. The discussion has been on how to cure the poll worker error of placing the initials on the ballot envelopes. We have taken the initial step of contacting those voters to make requests to have them re-vote. Madam Clerk, if you could give us a status as to what that progress has been.
Excuse me, Mr. Banks, can you talk a little louder? I couldn't hear you back there. I don't know if anybody else is having a hard time.
Is that better? Is it on? All right, well, we'll start, if Madam Clerk, you could give us a status of the recall and then try to notify all the affected voters from Saturday the 27th.
Louder, Mr. Banks, I can't hear you.
A report was created with a total of approximately 118 voters that it affected. It was suggested that a bipartisan group contact these individuals. Victoria Gresham and Kathy Kazuzik were the individuals that were to be handling the situation. It's my understanding, could be wrong, but Victoria, were most of the calls done with you there or without you?
Just in the morning on common day.
Okay, and Kathy said, you said you worked till 7:30 PM that night, got hold of most of them?
I got as many as I could. A lot of voters we don't have contact information for, no answer, immediately went to busy, no phone, no email. Five said, I must tell you, every voter that I did talk to was extremely unhappy. Five have indicated that after this meeting, they would be willing. A couple came in earlier today. I had asked them to wait until after this meeting. As you know, they would have to do an affidavit. We would have to get their ballot, their original ballot cast, the affidavit put around the ballot, and then issue it. You can't go through the poll book. Your office would have to print a ballot for that voter. We had voters at that location from mainly Portage, but they came as far as Liberty 5, Jackson, and out of all the voters that I was able to make contact with, 5 had indicated they could come back in.
Out of how many?
Let me see.
I think it was 118.
I thought I counted 122 here. But when the poll workers called Saturday, myself and my deputy were here. There were 2 gentlemen working the early voting site in Portage. And in fairness to them, I never like to blame a poll worker unless they've really proved that they've done something wrong. These were 2 fill-ins. The girls that normally work there had previous obligations.
And who appointed them?
That would have been the clerk's office.
Thank you.
I attended the training session for all the early vote site workers. Our fill-in people were not in that session. The one man got nervous because he could tell my voice, I was upset, and I was assured by somebody else in the office that these 2 individuals had little to no training. When I talked to the voters, I can't repeat the things they said about these 2 men, but like I told them, then you do it. You sign up and you do it. They're there to help you. They had problems. They did the best they could. Calling to tell you that They realized their problem at 11:25 when the call came to our office after numerous calls went unanswered to the election board. I immediately told the gentleman they had a ballot box that was already stuffed with ballots from Friday. They started putting these Saturday ballots in that box. I told them to put that box on the side and I'll start a new box. Because I knew at that point, I contacted, after I got the gentleman squared away, I contacted the Indiana Election Division. I knew at that point, we had to separate those ballots and keep them separate. And identify the voters, which I knew that, which I don't have access to Central Point. I was been denied access in June of this year to look up any voters, whether they were mailed a ballot, an application, I was cut off from that, so I could just search a voter at this point. But,
And who cut you off? Who cut you off?
It's not relevant.
It is
No, it's
relevant.
not relevant. You're not
You're
running
looking
the
at
election.
fault. You're looking at fault for 122
Directly, I
votes.
offered up to the election board, we could identify these voters from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m., 11:30 a.m. We could identify them through Central Point, run a report, and pull those ballots, quarantine those ballots. As you know, I contacted the Indiana Election Division, Matthew Pochever, an attorney with the Election Division, answered back. The Election Division will tell you that there's state statutes, there's laws that be followed, and he recommended that we attempt to call these voters. As you know, I don't know if any of you know this, I'm an 18-year employee of Porter County. I've done elections for 16 years. So I can tell you I speak with knowledge of all elections. I made one mistake. First year I was put into a supervisor position. And I'll still stand up and hold my hand high, yes, I did it. I did it, we make mistakes, mistakes happen. So a mistake was made. We were able to quarantine the ballots. I get a call that we're going to meet in the clerk's office Monday. Somehow somebody went over to Portage and transported those ballots back. I was told that it was a Democrat Republican, but those ballots never should have left Portage. They should have been kept in Portage, in my opinion, but they were transported back to the clerk's office. Did not have a chance to view the ballots. They're seal numbers. The ballots are kept secure. They're seal numbers to see if it had been opened at any time. So if you recall, Mr. Staples, my recommendation to the board at that time was to quarantine the ballots. No harm, no foul. We count the ballots. In the state of Indiana, we know an election has no one, with the exception of provisional ballots. Provisional ballots are no different than our regular ballots. They're issued to voters who fail to show their driver's license at the door, or more documentation is needed. And we teach the poll workers, or I used to, that don't hand them out like Halloween candy. If the races are close, we've got a lot of nail biters waiting. So you must call our office. We are the only ones, the voter registration is the only official office that has all the master records of the voters of this county. We can look on the back end of that voter's record, I've been dealing with 3 of them today, as to what happened, why they're not registered. The woman just called, she registered her and her husband online. I can tell her to the second, what day she did it, and to the second.
Let's stay on track with what we got.
And do we have a Central Point printout with the names of the voters?
It's somewhat of a printout, Mr. Stankwith.
Between the hours of 8:30 and 11:30 on Saturday.
Yes.
And it contains more than just the ones that did not have dual witnessing.
Well, they had more voters, but we just identified from 8:30 to 11:30.
So there's a chain of custody, the box came here, it was sealed when we met at 9:30 a.m., all members, Attorney Lowe, and we consider that an emergency board meeting.
Right.
And we agreed to a dual plan, which was A, contact the voters, and B, meet today to try to save the 122 votes,
118,
or 119.
18.
So we do have a chain of custody, we do have an identification of the voters involved, and the remaining issue is are we going to go forward and try to save these votes?
I would recommend
Which
to you, for doing this for 16 years, but you are the election board member, that you do save these votes. The 5 or 10 people that are willing to come back in here, begrudgingly, I might add, okay, so we take their new votes.
Okay, we got your recommendation.
What do
Thank
we do
you.
with the other voters?
All right, so we've made the motion, and we approved it in our emergency board meeting to notify the voters that were affected. We've accomplished that, correct? Has it been done?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So the Plan B of our process that we originally adopted is that any of the votes that were not cast or revoted, after we provided notice, they would be placed in a provisional ballot to be reviewed at the time of certification. Correct?
Correct.
Am I correct, Mr. Stankiewicz, on recollection of our previous practice and the process that we put in place and voted unanimously to do so?
And I
Correct?
just say, yes, and I've tendered a
Okay.
resolution to that effect to save the voters.
So at this point, we are still on that plan to notify the voters, which we've done. Now, anybody who does not vote between now and Election Day, those remaining ballots will be placed in the provisional and noted to be from the Portage clerk's location. Correct?
That's
That
what
would
my
be the
resolution
standard,
addresses.
that would be the standard operating procedure that we adopted at our emergency meeting. Correct?
Correct.
Madam Clerk, same?
Yes. I had one question, though. Kathy, I know this is probably not the first time this has ever had not initials on ballots. What did you do previously when not both initials were on the ballots?
Karen, I believe I told you that morning, but I'll repeat it. We've never had this problem. Well, we've had problems in this early voting. The girls are wanting to take care of everybody. They have long lines. When they're printing the ballots, they might have pulled the voters a Boone 1 voter, but they printed the voter a Center 1 ballot. And when it goes to the precinct, it will not read. So poll workers were instructed, if you have a ballot that will not read, you're to put it back in the voter's or envelope, make it a provisional, write on the back of it, M100 would not read. And as all of you know, what did we do in May when they were given the wrong ballot? We got the ballot for their corresponding precinct, and we reduplicated as much as their vote that we could to save their vote.
Okay, but there's never been a ballot in Porter County that's not had both initials on it?
Oh, there might have been some that went out to the precinct, but not of this magnitude.
But my question was, not that magnitude or otherwise, have there ever been ballots in Porter County that did not have both initials on it? And in that case, what did you do?
I've never seen a
You
ballot that
can't
didn't have
put
both initials on it, Karen.
Okay.
As you know, ballots are secured after the election.
So, Mr. Mr. President and Chair, I would like the board to consider my resolution, which I've handed out one copy to each member, to consider the requirement, based upon the fault being that of the county and not the voter, that any ambiguity about what happened be resolved against the person who caused the error. And since the county is the one who caused the error and is at fault, I would say that we attempt to save these votes and consider them to be in the same procedural way as provisional ballots that have some technicality to be resolved, so that between Election Day and 10 days later under the law, we could open and determine whether we want to certify them as part of the election vote.
Correct.
We don't, I would just say, we don't save anything by considering them void. Whoever is going to come within 122 votes of any race has a freebie for a recount. It's there. Whichever way that goes, you've got 122 votes in question on any race.
For clarification purposes, Mr. Smith, who is one of the individuals, did have a week of training with one of our veteran individuals. It was only the other individual, who has been an inspector prior to, that was working that day only. So I'm a little concerned about, he had a week of training, but you're still saying that's not enough?
Karen, he didn't have one-on-one as what was held here in the building for the other girls, one-on-one. They were both new, working.
No. He had one-on-one with a veteran trainer for a week. The individual was only
He worked with a girl, he showed up at 8:30, they started taking care of folders, Karen. That's not one-on-one.
I spoke to both of them the night before, and they both said they were prepared.
Well, obviously they weren't, or we wouldn't be.
Well, I'm just stating.
Be that as it may, we still have the issue that's in front of us now. And so far what I've heard is nothing's changed from the process that we adopted at our emergency meeting, is we've already done the notice, and the remaining votes that are not recast will be placed in the provisional ballot for review. Is there any change to that process? Because I haven't heard any yet.
No, and that's what I hope the resolution addresses.
So far, I think that's what we've done. So I don't think there's any further resolution. That's the current plan as we're moving forward. Correct?
Yes.
Anybody? That was the previous plan that we adopted. So I'm assuming we'll continue in that progress and hope that we get as many to revote, which would then be 100% curing of any issue that we would have with those ballots, and then the rest will be placed with the provisional ballot for certification after the election, as we've done in the past.
Point of information, Mr. President. Wouldn't it just make sense to make them provisional ballots? They've already voted. Why would you have to have them come back and inconvenience the voter? They've already cast their votes, and they're put aside. But if they're going to be counted, why inconvenience?
If they revote, then there's no question as to the validity of the vote itself.
There's still no question to it.
It's going to be placed in the provisional ballot, which then it can still be challenged at that point, certification
Well, you
process.
can challenge any vote at any time. So
Correct. So at this point, the revote is to clear any issue or any question regarding them.
Excuse me, Mr. Banger.
So,
That's not my resolution. I'm sorry, let me try to clarify. I'm talking about resolving the matter by eliminating the requirement of dual signatures, so that at this point in time, those are valid votes, even if they do not come back in good faith to do
Mr.
it.
Chairman, if I could interject here, I have some instruction I would like to give to the board on this. First and foremost, just so everybody understands this, the issue with this 118, 122 number of ballots is that they were voted, the voters went to the early voting location in Portage. The issue with those ballots is that state law requires that the absentee voter board do a bipartisan initial of each of those ballots. It is my understanding that these 118 or so ballots don't have that initial. Under state law, they are required to have that initial. So my recommendation to you as the board is that to the extent that these voters want to make sure that their votes are counted, that have been contacted, they need to come back in and they need to vote again during the absentee voting period, the early voting period. Those individuals that come back in, vote again, there should be an ABS 5 that's prepared to be able to spoil their initial ballot that was cast, and then we will move forward with this.
This isn't absentee, this is walk-in, hard copy, mark the ballot. This is early voting, this isn't
It's
absentee.
absentee in person. It's absentee in person, that's what it is.
All right.
So it is absentee, so
Excuse me, can
so
I add
everyone
something?
understands.
When you vote on the e-poll book, if the voter, one of these voters go back to one of those sites to vote, the workers are going to be told, you've already voted. It's no different than a voter changing their mind, walk out the door. They can't go back and retrieve that ballot. So ballots would have to be made up for each of these voters at all the precincts, an affidavit, a central site. The best resolution to this is what I've recommended. No voter come back. Their vote stands as is. The ballots are quarantined, put provisionally, and counted on the 10th day, along with all the other provisionals that might have been cast that day. End of story.
And that's the resolution that I'm trying to get passed today.
Well, I think,
Which is-
in my opinion, as the attorney for the election board, I think you are doing a disservice to those voters if you are not taking every single effort possible to contact them, which I believe that we are, to get them to come back and cast a new ballot. If you let this information out to the public, that these are just going to be provisionals and they'll be counted, I think you're doing a disservice to them. I think that takes away the motivation for these voters to come back in and cast a new ballot, which is the proper way in which to correct this deficiency. Because, DJ, I think that to the extent that these are provisional ballots, there is the ability under law to say those are defective ballots that should not be counted. If these individuals do not come back and just allow that original ballot to stand, that's the argument that could be made there. They put the validity of their ballots at issue if they do that. The correction, the easiest correction, have them come back in during the early voting period, cast another ballot, and we will spoil the original ballot. That is the message that needs to be conveyed clearly to these voters that were affected by this.
And that to me is a threat. With all due respect, I understand you're a very good legal attorney, but that is a threat which is after the fault of the county. It's the government who screwed up. It's not the voter. How could that make a vote invalid if the county, by negligence, has screwed up?
JJ, I will tell you this, and this is, so everyone understands this as well. There is a statute out there, it's a general savings clause for poll worker error as it relates to these absentee early voting ballots. That if a poll worker, and no issue of the voter themselves, makes an error, that there is a process whereby that ballot can still be counted. But that savings clause accepts out issues where there's not this bipartisan initialing on that absentee ballot. So it's not covered by that. So that is why, I think that if you get this perception out there to these voters, these individuals, that, hey, I got contacted, I don't have to do anything here, it's going to be provisional, and then hopefully it'll be counted as part of the certification of the election process. I don't think you're not doing them any favors, you're not communicating correct legal interpretation of the election laws to them. So if these individuals are being contacted, it does need to be stressed again, and I know I continue to say this, come back, contact people, come back and vote. We have some time left here still in this early voting period. Come back in. That is the safest way to make sure that your ballot counts.
And I would agree to this extent. It's the safest way for the board. It's the safest way for legal attorneys. This is a huge...
Safest way for the voter, JJ.
Well, you talk to the voters. You talk to the voters and ask
To
them...
the extent that the voters are interested in having their ballot cast, that's the...
They performed. The people who didn't perform is the government. Why would you want to rest on governmental credos when they've already screwed up once and couldn't even mark a ballot with initials? What is going to make that vote any better?
They will come back and be an initial.
Would you trust the government after that? Would you trust the government?
Well, in all the phone calls I made, no, they're very disillusioned at this point, and I say this, 5 will come back out of that 122. So what do we do with the rest of them? Maybe we'll count them on the 10th day. I recommended something to you all on Monday. So quarantine those ballots, we've identified who they are, put them in the ballot, and I can assure you I will be at that count, and those votes will count.
Mr. President.
Yes.
She has 5, I have maybe 10 or 12 that are willing to come back. But I hear that if in the event the decision is decided that they do come back, can we make it clear where they come back, the location? Is it at the clerk's office? Is it here? Don't leave that ambiguity there that we'll assume that they know where they're going back, just so that when we are contacting them to come back, we tell them specifically the location that they should go to.
Point of information, I believe that the location that they should vote at is their front door. If this is the county's mistake, then the county needs to go to their front door and get the vote fixed.
That's very good. Appoint a traveling board, go out there, and we get it done, not the voter. We've already screwed up once. Why don't we try to cure it?
Mr. Stabler, that's not going to take place. We've been fielding hundreds of phone calls, as Mr. Lowe knows. I've been documenting for over a month. People can't get the travel board. Poll workers, long-time poll workers have quit. I want to know, after you take this vote on this resolution, to save these people's vote, I want to know your contingency plan when polling locations won't open. Long-time poll workers.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. President, and I would move, can I have an up or down on my proposed resolution as it's worded correctly now, which would be, it exonerates the requirement to come back in, and if we hit Election Day and the people have not come back in, we would consider those ballots redundant in the sense we don't need additional signatures. They've already been approved once. This is redundant as all get out.
So we need a second. Because we didn't say anything.
Did they ask for a second?
Need a second for the motion from the board. As written, I cannot support it. With no second, no motion.
What changes would you like to see in it to make it work?
I've already stated our procedure. It'll be placed for provisional for review. State law is state law. I'm not the legislature, and as stated by council, that's the law. At this point, the best practice is to get those people back and re-vote. If they have to send out a traveling board, send out a traveling board if they're willing to do so. Make every effort to cure that issue. So I understand your opinion. I'm just saying that the state law is the state law.
The state law is based off of a lot of the for instance,
and at this point, we've also been,
Motion to approve the prior resolution.
what's that?
You want these approved?
Oh, the minutes?
Yeah, at the end.
We also have a notice that was provided to us from the Commissioner's office, from a complaint from the United States Postal Service that candidates are advised to not put your flyers in the mailbox. They have to be mailed. Do not stuff them in the mailbox. So I did pass that along as requested. We do have a motion to approve, or I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from our emergency meeting from
Second.
October 29th.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes from our emergency meeting from October 29th as
Aye.
provided by the clerk?
Aye.
So moved. With no business, I have motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor
Second.
for adjournment?
Excuse me.
Aye.
Excuse me, there's a point to this election. As I stated, I want to know if this election board has a contingency plan for polling locations, should they not open.
Well, Kathy, I think what is a little disheartening is that, and I'm going to tell you what we've done. The fact is, on September 21st, we received at noon the chairman's recommendations for the locations. We received under 50 from the Democratic Party. We received the ones from the Republican Party and still are receiving from the precinct individuals. We have offered online training. We have placed the individuals in positions. Between September 21st and October 9th, either myself or another member has contacted everybody that worked in the primary. As of right now, we gave you the list because you offered to help on October 25th, and I assume you're still working on that?
I've been sending them back to Debbie. Do I have any poll workers in here right now? Please stand up. Please tell me your encounter with the clerk and the process of what happened to you. Because she is one of hundreds that have come into my office.
So,
Say your name, please.
Elizabeth Engel. In August, I called and said I wanted to work the polls, and they took my name. On September 17th, I got an email that said, "Do you want to work the polls?" Send back an email that says, "Vote 2018." So I did that. I've been calling every week since the end of September because I have no idea, well, I do now, because I got a place yesterday, where I was going to have to be at 5 a.m. on November 6th. So yesterday, I went to the clerk's office twice, went to the meeting, and I think the thing that concerns me the most is that we're supposed to be bipartisan,
I explained to you that we contacted you twice, and I brought the documents. When I personally contacted you and verified your email, and then my other staff member left you a message. You said you never received them. I have it written here. Then here's the email.
I've never received a phone call, and if this goes public and everything, you can look at my phone. I didn't get it. She told me that, well, your voicemail isn't working, maybe...
No, I said there's a possibility. I didn't say you were specific.
Maybe that isn't working. I'm home all day, so I just wanted to work the polls, and at this point, I'm ready to chuck it, and I'm with Kathy. I feel like there's not going to be enough people to work the polls, and what are you going to do?
Yes,
So it's important to be.
the way the board just feels,
So they can change this law, but not the one with the signatures, I just want to make sure which law.
that's right, so that's right.
You can't, so
No
they can use
kidding.
special dispensation from...
Okay, wait a second. Let's clarify this. First of all, Kathy is the vice chairman of the Democratic Party. If you don't have precinct committeemen, then you need to contact her, because they set aside the precinct committeemen, not the Republicans. I have a Democrat working in my office who used to work for Kathy. That is the Democrat, Becky Rook. And I have a Republican.
You were talking to me yesterday, and I felt like you were yelling at me. I didn't raise my voice at you. You wouldn't let me finish one sentence because you kept interrupting me to tell me what you knew. You don't know that I've been trying to get a hold of somebody. Your office has not called me back, and I finally got a hold of somebody on Friday, and she said, I think I can put you in this spot. So I still, as of yesterday, did not know where I was working, and I have to be there at 5 in the morning. For me, it's important to help people get to vote. I'm sorry that you guys are so stressed, or whatever your story is.
Nobody said that. No, nobody ever said anything about being stressed.
But I just feel like the Democrats have had a chance. You haven't started calling any of the poll workers. There were several in here yesterday that said they had not gotten a call and didn't even know. I got the information from the Democrat committee to come to the meeting, but then you say that if you don't get enough Democrats, you're going to pull Republicans to work my spot.
That happens. There are individuals. We've had Democrats work in the Republican area, and what happens is the chairman signs off on it.
But if
It can happen.
I'm meeting yesterday and there's 5, 6, 12 people sitting around me that wanted to work and never heard from you guys, so everybody's answering machine didn't work, everybody's phone didn't work,
Victoria.
Just to express on how most poll workers are supposed to be recruited, there is the party chairman recommendation list that needs to go to the election board to fill the precinct. It's up to the parties and their precinct committee prior to that deadline that the party chairman turns in that precinct list, that it's the responsibility of the precinct committeemen to fill those boards. It's not the responsibility of the election board to necessarily fill those boards.
Excuse me, Victoria.
They got to enter the recommendations from the party chairman and from the precinct committee. So, I mean, if there's a delay on how people are getting placed, it may be because those that are putting those placements in based on recommendations from the precinct committeeman and the party chairman and utilizing the people who worked in the primary. We have some who have a Republican inspector who want to work with the Democratic judge, but yet the party chairman may have that particular individual placed somewhere else that isn't the precinct that they want to work at in that polling place.
Can I just clarify, because I read about, my mother-in-law is in Florida, and she texted, she read the story about her son. Precinct committeemen, the Democrats were elected in May. Not everybody signed up to be a precinct committeeman. And not everyone that won the precinct committeeman position answered the call to find me poll workers. I even told them that the party chairman had worked the polls. If he could do it, you as a precinct committeeman could do it. The deadline was September 22nd to submit to the clerk. The code goes on to say, if the chairman fails to do this, or he can't find enough workers, it falls on the election board to fill
I
it.
agree with
You didn't finish that, Victoria.
You
You didn't know, I know, you were done talking,
No,
but in any event,
Kathy, so did the Democratic Party chairman fail to
no,
nominate
he
enough
did not, he
individuals?
gave
Okay.
the names at him. And I have continuously.
So he gave enough names
Since Becky.
to fully staff
No,
all the polling
neither did the
locations?
Republican
No,
candidate.
but that was my question
Neither
to you.
did the Republican-
But you just said he did, so was it yes
No,
or
you
was
said
it
he
no?
did.
Yes, you
He
did.
said the deadline of the name he had.
And I didn't have enough, but I have fed them in continuously.
But you
And I know the election board, if they need to go to the main primaries and get the workers that work in the main primaries, but they tell you you're not.
Grocery, did we already
But
do
you
it?
know what? Victoria told me
They're neat,
to
those.
go for it.
They're not done. There's a lady, young girl,
Because your chairman failed to do it.
But he
No, that was not fair.
young girl.
Tell me his list by
I don't
September
know what it
22nd to
is.
you.
Next to the
And here's another
She's been
thing.
waiting a
The
while.
clerk took over elections in 16.
Meeting's over.
She has the name of every poll worker that worked in 16.
Okay.
Certainly, Victoria, she has the names and the phone numbers.
One.
We adjourned
If
it.
the chairman could not secure enough workers,
It was
they
the
had that
meeting
list
too,
go
the
down.
adjournment.
Frankie, you want to look again? Michelle,
The
you want to
meeting
look
is
again?
over. If you'd like to stay, you can
They closed
stay.
it out, they made it look like a
Okay,
dead
here's the
man.
other thing
We
now.
adjourned.
If you have
Yeah,
only
go
the
ahead,
same
wrap it.
notifications on the same list that we found addresses and phone numbers wrong because people have moved from the list and the data.
then everybody contacted voters.
American flag.
You're also eliminating people out in the general public who are calling or emailing or going to their precinct committeemen and saying, hey, I want to work,
So they
but I've
just
been
go
told
to
I
the clerk's
can't
office if
work
they have questions
because these
regarding
positions
their
have already
co-working
been
assignment.
promised to others.
And
That's
that's
happening, that has
the
happened.
proper-
That has happened. You have to pull
All right.
a recruitment of poll workers from
Okay,
everyone.
what-
I agree with you.
Official
The
meeting has been adjourned. If you want to take your questions regarding the poll worker assignments to the clerk's
I
office,
want
they
to
can
know
go
the
ahead and do it.
answer. You don't have enough poll workers. What
The
are you
meeting has
gonna
been
do?
adjourned.
What are you gonna do, Mr. Banks?
I guess we'll deal with when we deal with
This
it.
election has been paid and put together.
They were taken, right. We were talking about,
I'm ready to work. So I can even make
But that's my, If we do it, then you force it.
And I mean, and I know that- no, but understand,
Not to break the law.
I'm not arguing right now.
I think just.
Counter a challenge.
That's why it's no harm, no foul here. That's the way I look at it. That's the. Well,
I understand. Later on, it's different than the overall legal challenge.
Well, and it may not, in the market may not matter. No, I mean, the recommendation is clear, that you have to revote the, like I told you. I mean, correct. And like I told her, the only choice you do what the other towns have done, and you say, provisionally, they pass money, and we'll accept it. However, as soon as somebody does a challenge to try to avoid those 118 voters, I don't think we have like to see legally. But us as the legislature can pass that provisional challenge. I'm not saying it's correct, but I'm saying.
I understand what there's a public concern in all of this. I understand.
That's because there is a-
then on top of that, so y'all are. I'll probably get them to
But I mean, I think that's, you have to balance it. But you don't want to tell people don't show up.
Don't call back, don't revote.
That's wrong to say that.
Agreed.
Well, I felt bad. I don't know what she was
Becky
talking
works in my office, she knows how what's required.
Actually,
She knows, she's been filling in, I'll show you 3 months of email. She's been filling
I
in.
ain't quick together after we got involved.
Your class does everything.
I'll do the same thing they do. They didn't have budget, and they took inspectors and switched and made them 3 or 4. So if you have 4 different, and you have, do the same thing
Are
they
you
do.
nervous?
Am I nervous about not having this? I go on the radio channel for additional people.
And that's the way it is every time. I mean, you were training people until midnight, then
Monday before the election was
That's all good. You're right.
I emailed her. Both voters, we They'll try. Phone network. Over the road, bus, truck driver won't come. This was a joke, not coming in 45 minutes and then idiots. I call them. It's a shame. Thanks, Jay. These deals or votes should be counted without coming back. No answer to voicemail. So, these two people, Karen and Daryl, $2 a month. I wrote a letter to the ACLU. Can't make it back, can't make it back. No answer, no voicemail. Phone number, no good. They put on their own registration. Okay. Want to join us? $100 allowance and $50. The instructor was on giving their oath, sworn in, whatever it was. The first vote is on this book.
So we'll,
Thanks for that.
election night.
You don't have to, and there is a list, I travel to the homes. Can't get that. So how are we gonna? And they're out of town.
There's a Forest Township, the township board.
So it's within 50 votes. And I didn't turn around and I'm gonna get a lawyer as fast as I can to challenge. Now what happens with provisional ballot? The board has to.
I thought the provisional ballots were going to be counted. If they're necessary. In other words, if they're ready to come up.
No, all of the reviews that were.
Are reviewed, and then counted as long as we did.
If they're found good.
And in your opinion,
That's a provision.
in who counts the yes? And so when it comes time to look at these, what your opinion, how do you consider it?
Well, you gotta look at the orders made, for the damage balance, you risk, you can be throwing in multiple circles.
Right, no, I'm specifically referring to these specific ballots, that don't have the initials.
I've never seen them.
The ballots themselves assume that they're.
I've never seen them. I'm not gonna make any assumption. Why would I, I'm not making a pre-decision draft, we make a judgment now.
Well, I'm asking you, did you know you would not count them because they didn't have the initials?
They're gonna be in provision.
Correct. And in provisional, you review them. And that's how-
So once I review them, right, then I can make a decision.
Right, and assume that they're, the ballots themselves are perfect. So,
But I don't know that for a fact, I haven't seen them.
I understand that, but assume that the ballots were perfect.
You make a lot of assumptions, is all I'm saying.
You
Clarify.
Brandon,
You clarify the entire.
you're entitled to have a watch there, you can't be there, you're entitled to have a watch.
I did that. Right, wait. Let it.
Well, you're,
Yeah.
you gotta get one.
The guy that has.
You gotta get one. You gotta get one, and this could be a tough battle. Right?
If you vote,
He's
still gonna vote for Scott.
right now.
I'm going to double the vote.
Look it out.
See, John. Hey, take your name. Good. Well, see, that actually,
I mean, like I said, we're still no different than the plan we did 2 days ago. I'm just saying. It may be wrong. But it will be. And then,
my opinion's not gonna change, right?
yeah, that's. Now, here's where I think, and
there's no motivation. So it would be somebody that.
To me, the immediate, it's got to be somebody who's really close.
Right.
Because, and it,
Well, the school board and bike.
Now, if it was a new one, I would definitely say. But, arguably, we'll have a conversation.
Well, I mean, this case, and like, too.
If that person will sit there and wait for me to show up, or he, you'll have an election to put you back in. That means you're back in. You're gonna wait a little longer. Yeah, I think that's. Well, that, take it out.
No, I'm. Whatever's small. Oh, I know you did. No, I refuse to do Jay. I knew that I asked for a copy. He basically. Don't worry about coming back. Strike the requirement of me. State freaking form, that's their law. I mean, you can't just. You should, when you say you have to say two points, that's what he said. And that's what that scared me more. Yeah, because he's always generations. There, it's supposed to be. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we are. Every county I've lived in, they don't have this fight. Yes. She didn't say that, and she was just, he was sitting there, that thing also was probably pop up with that. But you know what, we're short of gold. Here's not the best. You're in it, it's your job. But like I said, that's the point. Oh, that was, no. Yeah.
Well, if you did it measure, I think so.
For you? We all gotta eat. But for you?
I don't know what you would give me. Yeah, you missed a good show. You should have been here.
Yeah.
You could have stood in front of me. Take the bullets. I told Reynolds actually. I did tell Dave Reynolds that. I said, you know, you owe me a jacket. And you put a little sheriff emblem, and that helps protect him a little bit more. I'm like, he just laughed.
Volunteer of the year. Not those people that deal with the same candidates.
There you go.
Right here it is. Dave Bates. 5 years in a row, that's round of
That's right. I still don't have my damn plaque in either.
All right, I understand. Ethan, Dave, you guys be good. Guys, be good.
Yeah. Oh, she did. Oh, she's. Oh, yeah. Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Every way imaginable. So what you minors, so you that speaks
There's an official training process.
Well, yeah, there is, but that's, there is, it is set up now. A quarter in a way that, because we've been here, we needed over the last second. And there's been classes, the day they pick up the suitcase to go set up on Saturday, before Tuesday. And they're basically, hey, remember, you got to do this, you got this, here's the check sheet. There's your training. So, it's not like going to college, you have to, paper come out. That's what those are. And you know, and that goes back to, is, like we just talked about, you got to do some locations, you can't get the paper. And it doesn't matter if you check the paper, like, hey.
What is it?
Yeah, that's really what we did. And here's the thing.
But what is it, 1,400?
Well, you start.
It is, but you start early and then you gotta.
5, you got 7 to 5 a.m. You don't get done until probably 7:30.
Right.
You're driving all the way from Burns Harbor down, it's gonna take a while to get there, much less than if you want to check the bag and make sure it's right. We're still doing manual count, delay even longer. You know, I mean, there's a lot into this that it really, you put those forward, you should be able to come back and do it. And then you got the complaining of where we all day long, here, you know, we don't like the process, we don't like the circle.
Yeah, absolutely.
We still have a paper receipt. Even with every automation we ever talked about, there's always been a paper receipt at the end. Everyone's adoption is one. So, yeah, you know, but you know, the one that doesn't, they kind of, they never have papers.
Yeah. But I mean,
Social science in my yard. Is that shit starts again. Got a problem, that clerk, got a problem, this clerk, got a problem, that board of commissioners, got a problem, this board of commissioners. It's awesome. It's us a lot.
But you know, other counties, I talked to people who, Elkhart is one I like talking about, I used to live there in 50 county. And you guys are living there, Goshen in the south, was Republican, Elkhart in the north was all Democrat. And how you guys got vote centers, it was unanimous vote, they did the entire process with vote centers, with equipment, everything, they did in 2.5 months. They did a bare minimum notice under the statute, and they pushed it to the election board, the council, the commission, everybody. And they started just like that. And then because they were like, they're all tired, there was an agreement that was made with the county chairs, and so that's it. We're not going to use this ever as leverage in our life. And that's how they've done it. They don't, these issues don't come up. If we're short of poll workers, everybody's supposed to bring them in. It's not pointing the finger at someone.
Consolidate on state, yeah, those says you can't. I do, I think so. Yeah. Well, but the thing that is, for me, it's that you have, in this case, you have a president who's directly responsible to the supervisor. And that is wrong. That is wrong, especially when, at a time, positions changed it. They come up there, you know, $25,000 or more. They need, parties don't look at, shit, she's taking a fair, or between two of them, they were being happy. Who's checking off on? Nobody, checking off, they're supposed, they're managing the house. Yep.
Now, I mean, if they make a mistake or something's unhappy,
Do you think that she's running home at, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, otherwise she should be down here? He walks in the house, why aren't you at work? Hell no.
I wouldn't say it here anyway. Are you kidding me?
We've broken that contract.
That's right, again, he just saying, that's exactly what you're saying.
Let's see you guys.
See you later, happy day.
Good.
yeah, the bell was in on top of the road there. But yeah, after.
Okay.